Alright lads, I'm going to walk you through Meta 2 installation, and I'm also going to create a character. I'm going to use Cesaro or Claudio. Main thing first is I want you to forget everything that you knew about Meta 1. It doesn't work the same, it doesn't function the same. The trade-off this year is a few extra steps that are manual for total control of the file. And it's always going to be this way from now on. So first of all, open up your cake tools, open up cake 60. This is where all the main data is. You want to extract character mapping, car profile table .roster, and face textures into your mods folder following the structure that you're going to bake. That has to be in a cake that is dominant, so 61 or plus. That is so that we override 2K's data. In your 23 directory, create a data folder. Once that is done, go to your meta. On the first boot, if it's your first time loading Meta, check your options just to make sure everything is fine. Set as default installation will add a registry key to your machine that associates JSFP files with a flat buffer file. I've already done my settings, so I'm fine. So you want to open up the JSFPs that you just extracted. Meta can multi-select JSFPs now. Give it a second to do its thing. That's a Windows thing. So once it's deserialized these two, we're going to do the character mapping as well. You see, once you do the first deserialization, every other one is very fast because of the inbuilt deserialization cache of the tool. Okay, so they're all deserialized. You want to click export and export them into your data folder. Now you can do subfolders and everything if you want to keep it clean. For tutorial purposes, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to hit save. It's going to ask you, would you like Meta to watch? You want to hit yes. What this will do is any change that you make to this JSON file, Meta will watch it and grab it, and it will serialize it back into the JSFP 2K format for you to bake or import back into the cake files. So I'm going to click yes. We'll do the same thing for all of them. Now you will see the import button here. You don't have to touch this. It's only if you want to manually import the JSON data that you're editing, which is never going to be the case anyway. As you can see in the log, it's now watching all those files that you extracted. So using Visual Code, go to File, Open Folder, select your data. And you'll see in here all the raw data that we can edit. Now, the roster table is the predominant one. You need to heavily focus this. The other ones are very just copy and paste. You don't want to touch anything that has a slot ID from 0 to 100. That includes the rock. We use the rock as a pointer in memory to find universe information and stuff like that. And everything below the rock is cause. And that's untested territory. We don't really want to be messing with them in case it breaks anything in the game. But if you have a little scroll through, you'll see all the nice information that is associated with a wrestler slot. I'm going to pick a random one. If you go to the Pro Wrestling Mods Wiki, you'll find all the IDs. So let's have a look at Cody Rhodes and have a little walkthrough of what all the information is. So his wrestler ID is 1025. So I'm going to do Control F to find. There he is. So the main information, it starts from the brackets here, if you're not familiar with JSON files. Alright, so the main files that you want to really care about are the wrestler ID, the slot ID, the wrestler ID 2, add to account pointer. You also need all these names. I'm sure you're familiar with them, the full name, the nickname, the social media. Well, how do we get them? If you have the SD Beta 2023, from me, and you open up your STB, you'll see now all these IDs are in decimal because we've completely switched over to decimal. So if I take his name and just run through here, you'll see it's Cody Rhodes. It's very simple stuff. You also need to pay attention to playable flag. If you're wanting this slot to be female, which I'll show you later on, you have to add gender underneath here. You also need to care about the weight class and wrestler type. These, if they don't exist in the slot, it means they're using the default, which is 0 for each one of them. It's the same logic applies to the profiles that are generated with Meta. This is Claudio's, but he is using 2 for each one of these. If you don't see this in the profile, that means they're using 0. You also need to care about the crowd signs, the call name, which is if you're from Leeds, the match winner string, which is just the full name, announcer ID, commentary ID. All the other stuff is just junk because we will override it in a memory for some reason this year, and they did it last year as well, where there's some information in the roster table that's primary and the stuff that's in memory is secondary. So that's why when you change in the cheat engine, it's not saving because it's required in here. Now, if we take a look at the character mapping, it's very similar to last year where you had to point to folders for the MDL, the textures and stuff. Nothing's really changed in here that much. It's pointing to the MDLs and the MTLSs now. And when you see attire number, that is the secondary attires. So you will never see the base model. The base model default outfit you get with the game will never have an attire number. If you see, for example, here, he's got a second attire. So attire number 1 is confusing. 1 is the second attire, and so on and so forth. Meta will generate all this information for you, so you don't need to worry. Same thing for the face textures. It's using the wrestler ID here. As you can see, the wrestler ID is in the character mapping. It's all transferring over. To add a render to an alternate attire, it's the same thing. You just duplicate here, add ID 1. 1 is the second attire again, 2K. It's weird, but it's very easy to follow. Meta again will generate all this information for you, which I'm going to show you. So on the PWM wiki, we have all the unused slots in the game. There are some that are not on here that can be added to the game. Haruto has already done this here. I will have that in the description. There's a good bunch of extra slots. So for this one, I'm going to choose, I already had it ready. Who did I choose? My Claudio, 475. Okay, so it's here. So Claudio, it's going to be Claudio. His wrestler ID is going to be 475, and his slot is 239. So I'm going to see if his slot ID is already in the roster table. Hey, there he is. It's a dummy file. Nothing. There's a lot missing. So it'll probably have, like, which it does, the playable flag's missing. The call name is probably missing as well. Nope, that's there. And you can see the announcer and the commentary are missing. So how do you fix this? Well, it's very easy. If we find somebody who has all that information already, which I'm obviously struggling to do now. Oh, this is a good example now. So if you want to set it as a female, you have to add gender underneath the playable flag if it exists, which it should do. But I'm going to snipe the playable flag because that's what I want. I'm going to go back to Claudio, who I want to be Claudio, add this, and I want the announcer and commentary IDs. I'm going to copy them. making sure everything else is here. Crowd signs, yep. If you see certain things that are missing, just look at another slot and you can copy it over. No issues. Alright, if I hit save now, Meta's already watching. As you can see, it's serialized it. If you look inside Meta, you'll see it's told you as well. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to create his profile. So if you load up Meta, go to Utility, open Creation Suite, File, New Character. Now from earlier, you will need to know the slot ID and the wrestler ID. Very, very important for obvious reasons. So his wrestler ID is 475 and his slot ID is 239. Everything else is very obvious, really. If you go into the character mapping, you will see now there are buttons on the side. Makes it easier to do everything you want it to do. So for Cesaro, it's Claudio, slip of the tongue. Go into the character. Gonna find him here. Make sure you set up all your folders already. Make sure the names are all set. Make sure the proper files are included from your lazy modders. So select the folder for the first one. Attire folder inside Claudio. Base model. MTLS. Same thing applies for the renders. It does it all for you. Movies, these are for your BK2s. I haven't got none for Claudio right now, but if I wanted it to be, I'd just click here and find the BK2s in your movie, and it'll do the same thing, it'll generate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to fill in all this information to make it easier. I'll clip to it when it's done. Alright, so I've filled in most of the information. Another thing for the movie IDs, all custom slots can have their own movie slot. Do a separate video on that. But when it comes to the movie ID here, just take the wrestler ID, add 2 zeros at the end of it. And that's all that's required, really. So if you go to the mapping tab, you should have all your data selected. If you've got more attires, choose the, here, and then fill it all out, all the way down. Have fun with that. Then just save it out. Claudio, done. A good chunk of data has just been saved. So now if you pull up what you just saved, we'll open in Visual Code because it's a lot easier. You'll see a heap of information going on here. The main things that you should really focus about, because most of this up here is just bollocks for memory, is here on the generated. What Meta's done is it's generated the data for you, all the hashes that you just need to copy and paste into your files. So we need the character mapping. I'm going to copy from the bracket, go to my character mapping. I'm going to put it to the bottom because OCD. So I've put it there, hit save, Meta's looking, boom, serialized. You don't need to wait like I did, I just did it for dramatic effect. Same thing for the renders. Copy it from the curly whirlies. Go to your face textures. I'm going to go to the bottom. Which is here. Make sure you do the proper JSON, so it has to have a comma. Paste. All the paths will be fine as long as your DDS is good to go. Hit save. Meta's going to do the same thing. Serialized. Now for the roster table, a little bit more tricky or time consuming. The movies here, I haven't done the movies obviously, but you do the same thing. You just copy here, paste it into your movie data table, and it'll be all good. So the roster table, we need the names. So if you open up the profile, you'll see full name SDB ID there. Copy the decimal, go back to your roster, and fill them out. I don't have a social media, so I'm not going to bother. I'm going to put the victory name string here. I don't know why they do this. We need the announcer ID and the commentary ID. And I put it here somewhere, 73. We need the crowd signs. They're here. That's generated for you. Paste. Make sure it's got the proper formatting. Playable flag is set. You don't need to worry about the height because it's going to get injected. Okay, so we also need the weight class and the wrestler type. Copy those over. Oh, and the location. That is, what did I call it? Build from. Copy the decimal. Paste. Hit save. Meta's watching. Serialized it. A good chunk of the data is already done. Like most of the work is done. So what you need to do now is you need to bake your mods folder and boot the game. I'm gonna skip this because it's just annoying. Alright, so we're in game. If you got to your character, you should see him now, playable. There he is. Obviously he's got no data. What I recommend doing before you do the injection is just copying an entrance from whoever to your custom slot, because I have seen like a strange issue where due to that copyright protection music shite, it'll block or crash empty data. So just do that. So then go back to the menu. You don't have to do that. It might not work. It might not crash for you all the time. It's just you know, preemption. So go back to meta. I'll close the character creation suite. So in here, you need to look for now for your slot ID. I've filtered this so it's listed by slot ID. So our dude was slot ID 239. So I'm gonna look through here. There he is. So you need to hit prime memory once. If it comes up this, I intentionally did this on purpose. It's gonna now latch onto the exe. So now you hit prime memory. Make sure you always, like when you click prime memory, never alt tab away. You have to keep this on focus. The reason for this now is because people wanted me to inject into the universe. It requires the async AOB grab to have focus all the time. So as you can see down here, it's found all the data for all the little regions. When you hit prime memory, you only have to do it once per game load. So you, like last year where you had to prime a slot, import, prime a slot, don't need to do that. It's a one-time gig. So now you could just like import, and go over and over. So our dude was 239. Gonna import. Takes a couple seconds. It's importing into your universe if you have it, into your exhibition, all that nice, cool shit. So if you go back to the game, now you'll see he's got all his juicy information here. Entrance is there, victory motion. And just like last year, you have to select a random person, change something, save all settings, saves to your universes, and done. Go to play. Providing your mod works. Of course, no movie IDs. I haven't set the database for the movie table, so that's why it's black. If I were to add it, it would appear. There he is. Yes, Mon. That's how it's done. So it's a very easy process, in my opinion. The more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. The process just gets easier. Any suggestions, you know, to make this even easier, let me know. I always take, you know, suggestions on board.